been a bit. It's been more than a bit. But the anniversary of the page is coming up, and um for the past couple of months I have been really struggling with how to carry the page forward, because you guys know that before it was very residency themed, and like experiences during residency, and guides for people who want to get into residency. And I still want to do that, just that the way that medicine is moving forward, not just medicine as we practice it, but also the medical education part of it, the information that I have is already outdated. So I have just finished my residency a year ago, and even now the information that I have for getting into residency is still basically from more than 5 years ago, and that's ancient when you think about it. So many things have changed since that, and I tried to keep up to date about the changes while I was in the residency program, which was more easier, especially because I was part of the residence council and I was attending all these meetings, and I knew the more inside stuff, which of course I could share what I could share. But recently, since I graduated, I don't have that access anymore. And so I don't want to put out information that is outdated or not useful and misguide people. That's the last thing that I want to do. I would still very much like to guide people with the general knowledge that I do have, but the more precise knowledge that I used to exist doesn't exist anymore. So sorry about that. So that being said, I think my page really lost its identity, and it was like, where does it go from here? The name change was something that I just wanted to do as soon as I finished residency, because it felt weird to have a page with the word resident in the profile name when I was no longer a resident. So as soon as I finished my residency, I knew I wanted to get that masked resident changed to something else. And then with some thought, and I just changed it to the unmasked surgeon. And what I didn't realize was that the evolution of the page was right there in front of my eyes, was right there with that name change. As a resident, as the masked resident, I was basically doing all things residency, and every other aspect of my life was masked by being a resident. Basically everything else was overshadowed by being a resident. And also, so many things in my life didn't exist back then. Like, I wasn't a mom back then. I didn't have to, I just had to focus on being a resident. Like, yes, I was enjoying my life. Yes, I was still, like, I did do some elements of content on, like, how to manage your life outside of residency, but that was still, everything was, like I said, overshadowed by the fact that residency just was the biggest part of my life back then. But then now that residency is over, it has all just been unmasked. Now my life is in my hands. I get hours off. I get to choose how I want to lead my life going forward. I'm not dictated by training hours or training assessments, or unless comes a time when I go into my fellowship, which will come. But for now, my life is in my hand. For now, I'm not a resident anymore. For now, I am just a surgeon, and I'm an unmasked surgeon, because I get to live my life and be everything that I want to be. And so that's the direction that I want to take my page going forward. I'm not going to delete everything. All of my content about residency before is always going to be there, and anybody who reaches out for residency advice with the disclaimer that my information might be outdated, I'll be more than glad to help you. But I'm going to step away from that residency element of my page and just going to talk about just life as a surgeon, and which basically is life in general, because life as a surgeon is not like life as a resident. It doesn't really revolve around your residency, because you get to choose the kind of job you take, you get to choose how much hours you work, you get to choose what you want to spend your time off on. And for me right now, while my job and career is still a big portion of my life, a bigger portion of my life is the life aspect itself, the unmasked part of it, which is being a mom to my toddler, being a person who is just exploring her hobbies, a person who has reading a lot, a person who is cooking a lot, a person who is just discovering new things that I want to start learning to challenge myself that is not medicine related. Like I want to pick up a new language, I want to pick up a new instrument, and I have time for all this. So, that being said, I think you're going to see a lot of non medicine related content on my page, and I think that's fine. In fact, I think that's the perfect way forward because, everybody says Instagram pages are supposed to have a niche and you're supposed to really follow a set pattern. And my intention of having this particular page was never to gain followers. It initially started out as a way to put out information about residency, and that's what it was always what it always stayed true to. But it was also to show the realities of like being a resident, right? About the hours and the hard work and the fun part of it, like in the fun reels and everything, was just a fun part of it. And I just enjoyed having that page, and I missed having that page in my life because it gave me a good creative outlet. And for a long time I couldn't go back to it because I didn't have the mental space or energy for it, because I was still struggling and understanding and growing into my new role as a mom. And I felt, the usual mom guilt about time away. And now that things have, I don't want to say stabilized because there is no real stability or stabilization after you have a kid, but still, as I have gotten a bit more used to being the role, and I've gotten more used to understanding myself and my new identity, I really wanted to come back to this and just be honest. Be honest about what I'm doing with my life. So be honest about the working hours, be honest about what I'm doing behind the scenes at home, managing my life and managing the cooking and managing the toddler managing and all of that. And I understand if that's not what's expected from here, and if you are following for residency related stuff and you want to sign out, sure. But if you're interested to know about life post residency, especially for the women in surgery, especially for the moms in surgery, especially for the options that we have going forward and how we are supposed to manage our lives going forward, stick around and stay tuned. uh, I will try to definitely post about some medical aspects of it, but unfortunately the life in private where I am right now is very different from the right life in government. Most of our cases are the same old. You don't really see, like back when I was in government in training, we used to see really cool stuff, really interesting things that, like interesting x-rays, radiology stuff, and all these meetings were exciting because everything was so fascinating and so unique and all the cases were amazing. So there was so much of medical stuff also that I could share. But honestly, there has been very few interesting things surgically that has happened in my almost 1 year of being in private. um, and even, and when you have interesting things happening very less frequently, then sharing that also kind of becomes a way to be able to track down privacy information about that patient. So we don't want that as well. So that's why, like, the medical content is going to be, I don't want to say a minimum, but it would be quite less. What I would be focusing on is more of the educational medical content, in which I always have loved teaching. And with teaching I mean just like, just ways, tips and tricks. We could break down topics, we could do some medical stuff, but simple things about complicated things, whatever. I do want to stick to the medical element of it as well, at least in terms of the teaching aspect, but also probably not in the terms of day-to-day clinically what I'm seeing. So just wanted to put that out there in case you were following for those kind of content and then you wonder, like, and if you want to unfollow and, like, be disconnected from this page because it doesn't suit what you want on your screens anymore. But just being really brutally honest and telling you what to expect going forward. And while this journey might not be as interesting medically as it was before, I still think that we have a lot of great stuff to explore. So like I said, stick around if that's something that you want to keep a tag on, and we'll see how it goes. So now, for now, officially, welcome to the life of the unmasked surgeon.